A billionaire finds two homeless twin girls in front of his father's grave. They look at him and say, "Sorry, Grandpa, we came to see you." The man smiles in confusion. "But this isn't your grandpa." Until the girl's words leave him speechless. Autumn was painting the trees red and gold when Nathan Collins pushed open the iron gate of the cemetery. His footsteps echoed on the stone path as he walked among the tombstones, a bouquet of white lilies held firmly in his hand. It had been exactly 1 year since William Collins, a business tycoon, and his father had passed away. Nathan adjusted his dark coat against the chilly wind. At 35, he ran a financial empire and lived alone in a mansion and rarely smiled. It was William Collins's perfect legacy, solid included. As he turned into the lane of the most imposing headstones, Nathan stopped abruptly. Someone was at his father's grave. Not adults as he had expected, but two small girls. They had their backs to him, leaning over the black marble headstone where William Edward Collins shone in gold letters. Nathan frowned. Children were not common visitors in that exclusive section of the cemetery, especially not children on their own, and these two looked particularly out of place, wearing simple, worn-out clothes, disheveled hair, with no adult around. He approached, slowly, not wanting to scare them. The smaller girl, who could not have been more than 4, was placing a handful of crushed wildflowers at the base of the headstone. The older one, maybe 6, held her sister's hand tightly. Nathan was just a few steps away from them when he clearly heard the little voice of the younger girl. "Sorry, Grandpa, we came to see you." He froze where he stood. "Grandpa." These children were calling his father their grandfather. The older girl knelt and smoothed the freshly laid earth in front of the headstone. "Mom couldn't come. She's sick." Nathan moved a few steps, closer. Dry leaves crackled under his shoes, warning the girls of his presence. They turned around quickly, their eyes wide as if they were 2 pairs of headlights. What Nathan saw almost made him recoil. The older girl had striking blue eyes, the exact same shade of blue he saw in the mirror every morning. Collins' eyes. "Hello," he said, trying to keep his voice steady despite the turmoil forming in his mind. "Are you visiting this grave?" The older girl nodded, without letting go of her sister's hand. Both watched him with a mix of curiosity and caution. "We came to see Grandpa," the older one said. Nathan felt a strange wave coursing through his body. He looked at the headstone, then at the girls, a confused smile forming on his face. "But this isn't your grandfather," he said, pointing to the headstone. "This is William Collins. He was my father." The girls did not look surprised. In fact, the younger one broke into a small smile, revealing baby teeth. "Are you Uncle Nathan?" asked the older girl, her blue eyes studying his face. Nathan felt as though he'd been punched in the stomach. "Uncle? How did these children know his name?" "How do you know who I am?" he asked, his voice weaker than he intended. "Mom has pictures of you from the newspaper," the girl answered. "She said you looked like Grandpa when he was younger." The world around Nathan started to spin. The pieces of a puzzle he didn't even know existed began to fit together. "Who is your mother?" he asked, almost dreading the answer. "Emily Carter," replied the girl. "She's in the hospital. The lady at the shelter let us come because Mom always wanted to, but she can't." The girl's words knocked the ground out from under him. Emily Carter. A name that meant nothing to him, but suddenly felt like it meant everything. If William Collins was these children's grandfather, and Nathan had no siblings, at least none he knew about. "You, what are your names?" he asked, his mouth dry. "I'm Lily," said the older one. "And she's Sophie. We're Grandpa Collins's granddaughters." Nathan looked at his father's grave, then at the girls, and back at the grave again. William Collins, the man he thought he knew, apparently had another child, a son or daughter, and these children would be his nieces. "Are you staying at a shelter?" he asked, noting once again the worn clothes and neglected appearance of the girls. Lily nodded. "It's just for now, until Mom gets better." Nathan couldn't say anything else. A whirlwind of questions flooded his mind. Who was Emily Carter? How did she know his father? Why had William never mentioned another family? And if these girls really were his granddaughters, That meant Nathan had a brother or sister he'd never known. Looking at those two small, apparently neglected children, Nathan felt his entire world shake. Everything he thought he knew about his family was suddenly incomplete. And the worst part, the only one who could explain everything was now lying silently beneath that cold marble headstone. Nathan couldn't sleep that night. The image of the two girls in the cemetery wouldn't leave his mind. Lily and Sophie, William Collins's granddaughters, his supposed nieces, seated in his office with the lights of Manhattan shining through the panoramic window. He spun a glass of whiskey between his fingers without drinking. If these girls were truly the daughters of a sister he never knew existed, why had his father never mentioned anything? William Collins was not known for being sentimental, but hiding an entire daughter. Emily Carter, he murmured to himself. He opened his notebook and typed the name into a search engine. Thousands of results appeared, but none seemed relevant. He added William Collins to the search. Nothing significant. After a few minutes staring at the screen, Nathan made a decision. He picked up the phone and dialed a number he rarely used. "Frank, it's Nathan Collins. I need an urgent favor." Frank Dawson was head of security at Collins Enterprises, a former police officer William had hired years ago. If anyone could find information on Emily Carter, it would be him. "I need you to find everything about a woman named Emily Carter. She has two small daughters, Lily and Sophie. It seems they're in some shelter in the city. And Frank, be discreet." After hanging up, Nathan kept his gaze on the city through the window. Why did those girls affect him so much? Maybe because for the first time in years, something had broken through the bubble of predictability in which he lived. The cell phone rang at 7 in the morning. Frank had done his job efficiently. "Mr. Collins, I found your Emily Carter. She's 28, works as a nurse at Mercy Hospital. She's been admitted for 3 days with pneumonia. Her daughters Lily, 6, and Sophie, 4, are temporarily at the Hope Shelter in Brooklyn." "Are you sure it's the right person?" asked Nathan, already getting dressed. "Positive. I found her birth record. Mother is Margaret Carter, deceased 5 years ago, father not listed." Nathan felt a chill down his spine. "Send me all the details and the shelter's address." 30 minutes later, Nathan was driving his own car across the Brooklyn Bridge, something he rarely did. He usually preferred using his drivers, but today he needed privacy. He followed the GPS instructions to a neighborhood of old buildings and cracked sidewalks. The Hope Shelter was in a red brick building that had seen better days. Nathan parked and took a deep breath before getting out. What would he say? How? Would he explain his presence? More importantly, what would he do if he discovered the girls really were his nieces? At reception, a middle-aged woman with graying hair looked up from a stack of papers. "May I help you?" "Good morning. My name is Nathan Collins. I'm looking for information about Lily and Sophie Carter." The woman's expression changed instantly. "Mr. Collins, the girls mentioned they met someone at the cemetery yesterday, but..." She looked him up and down. "I never imagined it would be you, the Nathan Collins." "Yes, well, they were visiting my father's grave," he explained, uneasy with the recognition. "They seemed to think he was their grandfather." The woman hesitated. "I'm Martha Wilson, the shelter's director. Why don't you come to my office so we can talk?" In the small office with files piled up and a wilted plant on the windowsill, Martha indicated a chair. "The girls arrived 3 days ago, when their mother was hospitalized. Emily is alone with no close family. The little ones had nowhere else to go." "What about their father?" asked Nathan. Martha shook her head. "There's no father in the picture. From what I understand, Emily has raised the girls alone since birth." Nathan hesitated before his next question. "Mrs. Wilson, the girls said my father, William Collins, was their grandfather. Does that mean that Emily would be your sister?" Martha concluded, raising her eyebrows. "I don't know all the details, Mr. Collins, but Emily mentioned once that her mother had a relationship with a powerful man who never acknowledged paternity." A knot formed in Nathan's throat. "I'd like to see them, the girls, and I'd also like information on how to find Emily at the hospital." Martha studied him for a moment. "The girls are in the playroom. I can take you there. As for Emily, she's at Mercy Hospital, room 412. But Mr. Collins, these kids have already been through so much. If you're not planning to really be involved, maybe it's better not to raise their hopes." Her words hit Nathan like a slap. "I understand your concern, but I need to find out the truth." In the recreation room, about 10 children played under the supervision of a young woman. Nathan immediately recognized Lily and Sophie sitting at a small table drawing. When they saw him, both pairs of eyes went wide. Sophie ran over to him, catching Nathan by surprise. "Uncle Nathan, you came to see us." The girl's spontaneity caught him off guard. Lily approached more cautiously. "Did you come to take us to see Mom?" she asked, hope shining in her blue eyes so much like his own. I came to see how you're doing," Nathan said, crouching down to their level. "And yes, I also want to know how your mom is." After 20 minutes talking with the girls, Nathan left the shelter with the hospital's address and a strange feeling in his chest. The girls were smart and sweet, despite their circumstances, and the physical resemblance, especially with Lily, was impossible to ignore. Mercy Hospital was a grey, impersonal structure. Nathan passed reception, explained who he was visiting, and headed up to the 4th floor. His heart pounded as he stopped in front of room 412. What would he say to this woman who might be his sister? He knocked lightly and entered. The room was simple, with 2 beds separated by a curtain. In the bed near the window, a young woman sat flipping through a magazine. When she saw him, her eyes, the same blue as Lily's, widened in shock. "Hello," Nathan said, stopping at the doorway. "Are you Emily Carter?" She closed the magazine slowly, not looking away. "Yes, and you must be Nathan Collins." There was a tension in her voice that surprised him. It wasn't fear, but something else, a mix of resentment and caution. "Your daughters met me yesterday at the cemetery," he explained, moving closer to the bed. "They were visiting my father's grave." Emily let out a short sigh. They shouldn't have gone there alone. Martha promised she'd keep them at the shelter. "They're okay," Nathan assured her. "I just saw them." A tense silence filled the room. Nathan gathered the courage to ask the question that had been spinning in his mind. "Emily, your daughters called my father their grandfather. They said you have pictures of me. Why?" Emily stared at him for a long moment before responding. Her face was pale, with dark circles under her eyes, but there was a steadfastness in her expression. "Because William Collins was my father too, which makes you my half-brother." Even though he already suspected, hearing it confirmed made Nathan lean against the wall for support. "How? When?" "My mother, Margaret, worked as an executive assistant at Collins Enterprises in 1995, Emily explained, her voice now flat, as if telling a story she'd rehearsed many times. "She was 24. Your father was 50 and already married to your mother. They had an affair for almost a year." Nathan closed his eyes for a moment. The timeline matched. He had been only 5 in 1995. "When my mother got pregnant," Emily continued, "your father denied the baby was his. He offered her money to take care of the problem. When she refused, he fired her and paid a sum so she would disappear. He made her sign documents promising never to contact him or make any paternity claim." Nathan felt his stomach churn. That sounded exactly like something William Collins would do. "How did you find out he was your father then?" "My mother never hid it from me. She kept newspaper clippings and photos of him at events. She always told me who my father was, even if he wanted nothing to do with me." Emily gave a sad smile. "She wasn't bitter, you know. She said that despite everything, he'd given her me, and that was what mattered." Nathan pulled up a chair and sat down. "Why did you never look for him? Or me?" Emily let out a dry laugh. "To say what? Hi, I'm your illegitimate daughter, the one you paid to keep hidden. Besides, he made my mother promise, and she kept her word. After she died, I thought about trying. But then I found out I was pregnant with Lily. Priorities change." "What about the girl's father?" Emily's face hardened. "He's not in the picture. Never was." Nathan absorbed everything in silence. His father, the great William Collins, had hidden a daughter for decades, paid for a woman's silence, and then abandoned her while she was pregnant. "When I found out William had died," Emily continued, I considered going to the funeral, but it felt wrong. He never wanted me in life. Why would he want me in death? But I promised the girls that someday I would take them to see their grandfather's grave. I just never imagined it would happen this way. Nathan looked at this woman he had just met, who carried the same blood as he did. A half-sister. His father had deliberately hidden. "Emily, I had no idea. If I'd known..." "What would you have done?" she asked, her tone now challenging. "Would you have sought me out? I highly doubt it. You Collins are all the same. You only care about the empire, about appearances." "That's not fair," Nathan protested. "I never knew about you until yesterday. And now that you know, what do you want?" Emily adjusted herself on the bed, eyeing him with distrust. "Why are you here, Nathan? Guilt? Curiosity? Or are you worried I'll go to the press?" With the sordid tale of the great William Collins, "I want to help," he replied, surprised by his own sincerity. "Your daughters, my nieces, are in a shelter. You're sick. We're family." Emily shook her head slowly. "No, Nathan. You share the same blood as me, but that doesn't make us family. Family are the people who are there for each other, who support each other. I don't need your late charity." "It's not charity," he insisted. "It's the least I can do." "Why?" "To ease your conscience. Or to clean up your father's memory." The bitterness in her words stung. Nathan stood up, shocked by Emily's defensive hostility. He had imagined many reactions, but not this vehement resistance. "Look, I know we don't know each other, and I understand your distrust, but your daughters are my nieces. You are my sister, and I just discovered my father kept an entire part of my family hidden from me all my life. I'm trying to process this as much as you are." Emily's gaze softened slightly. For a moment, Nathan saw vulnerability in her eyes. "I don't need you to save us, Nathan. We've been doing fine so far." "In a shelter? With you in the hospital?" Nathan regretted the words as soon as they came out. Emily's face hardened again. "Don't judge me. I've always done the best I could. One rough patch doesn't define who I am or how I raise my daughters." Nathan took a deep breath. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to judge. Just let me help, Emily. Please, we can take it slow. You need to recover, and the girls need somewhere better than a temporary shelter." Emily studied him for a long moment. "Why do you care so much? You just met us." "Because..." Nathan hesitated, looking for the right words. "Because you're the only family I have left, and maybe it's time to fix my father's mistakes, even though he's not here to do it himself." A heavy silence filled the room. Finally, Emily spoke, her voice calmer. "Let's get one thing straight, Nathan. Accepting your help doesn't mean I trust you, and it doesn't mean you suddenly have the right to make decisions about our lives, if I even decide to accept it." Nathan nodded slowly. "I understand. It's your choice, but I want you to know I'm here now, and I won't disappear." Emily did not reply, but there was something different in her gaze. It wasn't acceptance, not yet, but maybe it was the first step towards something neither of them could define. Nathan spun a pen between his fingers as he stared at his computer screen without really seeing it. 3 days had passed since his meeting with Emily at the hospital, and he couldn't stop thinking about her and the girls. The thought that he had a family he never knew he had haunted him like a shadow. The intercom on his desk rang, interrupting his thoughts. "Mr. Collins, Mr. Davidson from the board, is here for the 10 a.m. meeting." "Send him in, Claire," Nathan replied, straightening his tie and trying to push Emily out of his mind. Robert Davidson, Collins Enterprises legal director for over 20 years, entered the office with his usual rigid posture. At 60, he was one of the few executives who had worked directly with William Collins and stayed on after his death. "Nathan," he greeted with a formal nod, "I received your email about the Asia contracts, but I confess I'm more curious about the other matter you mentioned." Nathan motioned to the chair in front of him. "Thanks for coming, Robert. Yes, I have a delicate issue to discuss." Davidson placed his briefcase on the table. "Does it have to do with you investigating a woman named Emily Carter?" Nathan froze. "How do you know that?" "Frank Dawson spoke to me yesterday. He was worried you might be getting scammed by some con artist." Davidson leaned forward. "Nathan, who is this woman?" For a moment, Nathan considered lying, but something in him refused. She's my father's daughter, my half-sister. Davidson's face visibly paled. That's impossible. It's not. William had an affair with her mother in 1995. He paid for her to disappear when she got pregnant. Nathan watched the lawyer's reaction carefully. But you already knew that, didn't you, Robert? Davidson adjusted his glasses, clearly uncomfortable. Your father consulted me about some confidentiality agreements back then, but he never confirmed he had a daughter. Well, he did. And now she has two daughters, my nieces. Nathan stood and walked to the window. They're living in a shelter, Robert. Emily is sick, penniless, while I live in this. He gestured around the luxurious office. Corporate. Palace. Nathan, Davidson's voice took on a cautious tone. I understand your shock, but you must consider the implications. If this woman really is William's daughter, she might be entitled to a significant share of the inheritance. The shareholders would be furious, not to mention the scandal for the company's image. I'm aware, Nathan replied, more sharply than he intended. Furthermore, Davidson continued, how can you be sure she is who she claims to be? Have you considered a DNA test? There are many opportunists out there. Nathan turned to face him. Have you seen her daughters? Especially Lily, the older one. She has the same eyes as me, as my father. Coincidences happen, argued Davidson. Nathan, you were raised to lead this company. You're William's only legitimate heir. Don't throw it all away because of a possible mistake or worse, an elaborate fraud. His words hit Nathan like a punch. It was exactly the kind of thing his father would say. Protect the empire above all. Public image above the truth. I'm going to help her, declared Nathan, surprising even himself with the firmness in his voice. One way or another. Davidson sighed. If you're determined, at least be cautious. I suggest a confidentiality agreement before any financial assistance, and definitely a DNA test. After Davidson left, Nathan remained by the window, watching the bustle of Manhattan below. People in a hurry, each with their own story, their own family secrets. How many other William Collinses were out there, powerful men denying their responsibilities, hiding entire parts of their lives? His phone buzzed. A message from the hospital. Emily would be discharged that afternoon. Without a second thought, Nathan grabbed his coat and car keys. The Hope shelter looked even more depressing under the weak, late afternoon light. Nathan parked in front of the brick building and took a deep breath before stepping out. He had spent the whole day thinking about what he would say to Emily, how he could persuade her to accept his help. Martha Wilson greeted him with a tired smile. Mr. Collins, what a surprise. Emily just got back from the hospital. She's in room 14 with the girls. How is she? Nathan asked. Better, but exhausted. She insisted on leaving the hospital today, even though the doctors recommended more time. She's stubborn, worried about the bills, about the girls. Nathan nodded, feeling a mix of admiration and frustration. May I see her? Martha led him through the narrow hallways to a door at the end of the corridor. She knocked lightly and opened it. Emily, you have a visitor. The room was small, with 2 single beds and a bunk bed. Lily and Sophie were sitting on the floor playing with worn dolls, while Emily arranged some clothes in a dresser. When she saw Nathan, her face showed surprise, then suspicion. Girls, Martha said, why don't you help me prepare some snacks for everyone? Sophie jumped up excited, but Lily looked at her mother, hesitant. It's okay, sweetheart, Emily assured. Go with Mrs. Wilson. After the children left, a heavy silence filled the room. Emily sat on the edge of the bed, visibly tired. Didn't expect to see you again so soon, she said. I heard you were discharged from the hospital today, Nathan replied, standing near the door. How are you feeling? Better, I can't afford to stay sick for long. She gestured around the room. As you can see, our plan B isn't exactly 5-star. Nathan surveyed the cramped space, the peeling walls, the window that barely closed. Guilt washed over him again. Emily, I want to help. I can find you an apartment, pay your medical bills, make sure the girls have everything they need. Emily crossed her arms. And in return? The question caught him off guard. In return, I don't want anything. We're family. Family, she repeated with a sad smile. You've known me for less than a week, Nathan. We're not family just because we share half our DNA. Then let me get to know you, he insisted. Let me be part of the girls' lives. They're my nieces. Emily studied his face for a long moment. Why is this so important to you? Is it guilt? Or just a charity project to make yourself feel better about being the only child of the great William Collins? Her words hurt, but Nathan recognized the self-defense behind them. It's not that at all. Maybe it's actually selfish. I've spent my entire life alone, Emily. My mother left when I was 10. My father was, well, you know how he was. I grew up surrounded by people who wanted things from me, not with me. Something in Emily's expression softened. And you think money will fix it all? Will heal the wounds my mother carried for years? Give my daughters a grandfather who never wanted to know them? No, Nathan admitted. I know my fortune. Can't erase what my father did, or undo the suffering you went through. But it can give you a better future. Emily looked down at her hands, her determination still visible in her weary face. I can take care of my daughters on my own. I always have. I don't doubt that, Nathan responded. But no one should have to do everything alone. Not you, not me. A silence fell between them, less tense than before. Nathan realized he couldn't force Emily to accept his help. She had spent her entire life being strong, surviving without the Collins name. Her resistance wasn't mere stubbornness, it was self-preservation. Think about it, he finally said. Not for you, but for Lily and Sophie. They deserve more than this place, more than worrying about medical bills and rent. Emily didn't answer right away. When she did, her voice was quieter. I'll think about it, but I'm not promising anything. For Nathan, that was enough. For now. He set a business card on the dresser. My personal number. Call me when you decide or if you need anything. Leaving the shelter, Nathan felt a strange mix of emotions. Part of him feared Emily would never call, that she would reject his help outright. Another part feared the opposite, that she would accept, and he wouldn't know how to be the brother she needed. As he drove back to Manhattan, the skyscrapers rising on the horizon like sentinels of his privilege, Nathan knew that, no matter what Emily decided, his life would never be the same. William Collins's secrets had changed everything, and now he had to decide what kind of man he would be, a copy of his father or someone entirely different. Nathan couldn't sleep. For the third night in a row, he found himself on the terrace of his apartment, gazing at the illuminated city below. His encounter with Emily at the hospital had shaken him more than he expected. A sister, nieces, a family he never knew existed. He took a sip of his whiskey, letting the amber liquid burn his throat. Part of him wanted to help Emily and the girls immediately, get them out of the shelter, offer them a comfortable home, pay the medical bills, ensure the girls got a good education. After all, he had enough money for several lifetimes. But another part hesitated. What if he was acting too hastily? What if Emily really didn't want his help? What if he got too involved and ended up disappointed? Or worse, what if he disappointed? The girls? His phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. It was Frank Dawson. Mr. Collins, I have the information you requested about the Hope Shelter. Frank's deep voice sounded tired even over the phone. It's a decent place, mostly funded by private donations. They take in families in temporary crisis for a maximum of 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Nathan frowned. Then what? Then, the families have to find somewhere else. Emily Carter and the girls have been there for 5 days. She's been in the hospital for 3 of those. Nathan thanked him and hung up. 3 weeks wasn't much time. Emily would be weak after pneumonia, possibly unable to work for a while. Where would they go next? He looked at the city again, thinking of Emily's defensive stare. She didn't want his charity. She'd made that clear. But what if there was another way? One that respected her pride but still offered real help? Next morning, Nathan drove to the Hope Shelter. Martha Wilson greeted him with a tired but genuine smile. Mr. Collins, what a pleasant surprise. Are you here to see the girls? Actually, I'd like to speak with you first, he replied, following her into her small office. I want to help, but in a way Emily can accept. Martha indicated a chair. She's a proud woman, and she has good reasons to distrust the Collins family. I know, Nathan admitted. That's why I need your guidance. What does the shelter need most right now? And what will Emily and the girls need when they leave? Martha's eyes lit up. Well, as for the shelter, we always need basic supplies. Non-perishable food, hygiene products, bedding. Our heating system is also only working at half capacity. Over the next hour, Nathan listened carefully to the shelter's needs and the specific concerns about Emily's situation. Martha explained that Emily would need time to fully recover from pneumonia, that the girls needed stability, and that finding a new, affordable apartment would be the biggest immediate challenge. "Does she have any savings?" Nathan asked. Martha sighed. "Almost nothing. Nurses don't earn much, and being a single mother of two," she let the sentence trail off. When Nathan left Martha's office, he had a plan. It wouldn't be easy, and Emily would probably still resist, but it was a start. His first step was discreet, a substantial donation to the Hope Shelter, specifically earmarked for facility, improvements and supplies. When Martha tried to thank him profusely, he asked her not to mention the donation amount to anyone, especially Emily. The second step was more challenging. Nathan visited the hospital where Emily worked and met with the head of nursing, partially explaining the situation, that Emily was his newly discovered sister, that she was going through difficulties, and that he wanted to help without undermining her independence. "She's an excellent nurse," the supervisor stated, "but our department is facing budget cuts. We can't offer paid medical leave for more than 2 weeks." After a long conversation, they reached an agreement. The hospital would find funds to extend Emily's paid medical leave for a month, allowing her to fully recover. Nathan, of course, would be the real source of those funds, but Emily need not know that. 3 days later, Nathan finally visited Lily and Sophie at the shelter. The girls greeted him enthusiastically, especially Sophie, who ran into his arms as if she had known him for years, not weeks. "Did you bring presents?" she announced, pointing to a little pink backpack by the bed. "Sophie," Lily admonished her gently, "we don't ask for presents like that." Nathan laughed. "I didn't bring any presents today. But how about this? After we visit your mum at the hospital, we can stop for ice cream." The girls' eyes lit up, and even Lily couldn't hide her smile. At the hospital, they found Emily sitting up in bed, flipping through a magazine. She looked less pale than on his last visit, but still visibly weak. Her expression upon seeing Nathan was a mix of surprise and suspicion. "I thought you'd given up," she said after the girls left with a nurse to get juice. "Why would you think that?" asked Nathan, sitting in the chair beside the bed. "It's been almost a week. I figured maybe you realized we're too complicated for your lifestyle." Nathan smiled slightly. "Do you always assume the worst about people?" "Not about people. About the Collins," she responded. She studied his face. "So why are you here, Nathan?" "Really?" "Because I want to get to know my sister," he answered simply, "and because I want my nieces to know they have an uncle who cares about them." Emily looked away, a sign that his words had touched her. "And how long will this interest last? A month, a year, until something more important comes along?" "I can't predict the future, Emily. All I can promise is that I'm here now, and I want to be here tomorrow, too." When the girls returned, conversation shifted to lighter subjects. Nathan stayed almost 2 hours, listening to Sophie describe a drawing she had made at the shelter, and Lily explaining with surprising detail the book she was reading. He observed how Emily interacted with her daughters, patient, loving, firm when needed, and felt a growing admiration for this woman who, despite all difficulties, had raised 2 such special kids. As promised, he took the girls for ice cream afterward. While he watched them select their flavors with childish excitement, he felt a strange sense of belonging he had never experienced before. Over the next 2 weeks, Nathan established a routine. He visited the girls at the shelter almost daily, often bringing small gifts, nothing ostentatious, just books, art supplies for Lily, a small teddy bear for Sophie. He took them to visit Emily at the hospital, and occasionally on brief outings, the park, the zoo, once the movies. Martha watched him with a knowing smile. "They're getting attached to you," she remarked one afternoon, while the girls played. "In the shelter's tiny courtyard. I'm getting attached to them too," Nathan admitted, surprising himself with the honesty of that statement. "What about Emily? Is she starting to trust you?" Nathan sighed. "It's complicated. Sometimes it seems like she does. Other times I feel like she's just tolerating my presence for the girl's sake." Give her time, Martha advised. Emily carries deep wounds. When Emily was finally discharged from the hospital, Nathan was there to pick her up. She seemed surprised to see him, but didn't protest when he took her small bag. The girls are excited to see you, he said as they walked down the corridor. Lily decorated your side of the room at the shelter with drawings so you'd feel welcome. A shadow passed over Emily's face. I hate that they're stuck in that place. It's temporary, Nathan reminded her gently. What then? I don't have the money for a new apartment deposit. I barely have enough for rent. Nathan hesitated. This was the moment he'd been waiting for, but he needed to be careful. Go about that, he began cautiously. Maybe we could talk when we get back to the shelter. Emily gave him a wary look but nodded. At the shelter, after an emotional reunion with her daughters, Emily finally sat down with Nathan in a quiet corner of the common room. So what did you want to talk about? She asked directly. Nathan took a deep breath. I found a few apartments for rent that might interest you. Safe neighborhoods near decent schools, reasonably priced. Emily raised an eyebrow. And how exactly do I pay for the deposit? Or the rent, considering I'll still be on medical leave for a while? As for the deposit, Nathan chose his words carefully. I'd like to help. As an advance, not a gift. You can pay me back whenever you can, no rush. And why would you do that? Because we're family, he said simply, and families help each other. Emily studied him for a long time, as if trying to decipher his true intentions. What if I never manage to pay you back? Then don't, that's not the point. To his surprise, Emily didn't reject the idea outright. I'll think about it, she said at last. That was more than Nathan expected. A small step, but a significant one. In the following days, Emily slowly began to warm to the possibility of accepting Nathan's help. Together, they visited some of the apartments he had found. They were modest places, nothing luxurious, but clean, safe, and definitely better than the shelter. Emily chose the simplest, most affordable one, a two-bedroom apartment in an older but well-maintained building, with a small green area where the girls could play. When Nathan handed over the check for the deposit and first month's rent, Emily seemed to struggle inwardly. This doesn't mean I agree with everything, she said, finally accepting the envelope. I will pay it back. I know, Nathan replied, resisting the urge to say it wasn't necessary. During the move, which mainly consisted of taking the few bags and boxes they owned, Nathan realized how little they really had. The apartment, though small, felt empty. We need furniture, he commented while Emily organized some clothes in a built-in closet. I'll buy it piece by piece, she replied. Beds are the most important right now. Everything else can wait. Nathan wanted to argue, to offer to furnish the entire apartment, but he knew that would be too much. Instead, he suggested, what if I bring some basic items? A table, chairs, maybe a couch. I have some extra furniture in storage. That wasn't entirely true, of course, but it sounded better than offering to buy everything new. Emily hesitated, but the thought of her daughters sitting on the floor to eat made her relent. Just the basics, she emphasized. The next day, Nathan arrived with a delivery truck carrying used furniture, recently purchased but intentionally made to look second-hand. A simple dining table with 4 chairs, a comfortable couch, a dresser for the girls' room, and a few lamps. Emily watched the delivery with an expression that was hard to read. These look pretty new for extras, she commented after the movers left. Nathan shrugged, trying to appear casual. They've been in storage for a while. Emily clearly didn't believe him, but to Nathan's surprise, she didn't argue. Instead, she said simply, "Thank you." It was the first time she had thanked him without reservations, and Nathan felt as if he had won a small battle. In the weeks that followed, Nathan continued his regular visits, now to the apartment instead of the shelter. He brought small gifts for the girls, and occasionally something practical for the home. Towels, kitchen utensils, a new coffee maker, when he noticed Emily's was on the verge of breaking. Each gift was chosen carefully so it wouldn't feel like an ostentatious display or charity, but a genuine gesture of caring. Gradually, Emily stopped protesting every new offer. One evening, after the girls were asleep, Emily served Nathan a cup of coffee in the small kitchen. "Why do you keep coming back?" she asked abruptly. The question caught Nathan by surprise. What do you mean? You've already done more than enough to ease any guilt you feel about what your father did. You don't have to keep doing this. I'm not here because of guilt, Emily, he replied, meeting her gaze. I'm here because you matter to me. We're strangers. You've known us for less than 2 months. Nathan took a sip of his coffee, thinking about how to explain. You know, I grew up in a huge house with everything money could buy, but I never felt like I belonged anywhere. My father was always working. My mother left when I was young. I was just lonely. Emily observed him closely, her usual hostility momentarily set aside. When I'm with the girls, when we're all here together, even with all the tension between us, he continued, it's the first time in a long time that I don't feel alone. The sincerity in Nathan's words seemed to surprise Emily. She looked away, her own coffee cup cradled in her hands. They like you a lot, she finally admitted. Especially Sophie. She's never had a consistent male figure in her life. Does that bother you? Emily considered the question. It scares me, she confessed. What if you get tired of this? If you decide you have more important things to do, they'd be devastated. I won't disappear, Emily. That's what everyone says until it happens, she sighed. Their father promised the same thing. It was the first time she had mentioned the girl's father in any detail. Nathan sensed he was treading on sensitive ground. What happened with him? He asked softly. Emily shrugged. The classic story. A grand romance, big promises. When I got pregnant with Lily, I found out he was married. He denied the baby was his, said I was trying to trap him. She let out a bitter laugh. Like father, like daughter, I suppose. Seems I have a knack for choosing men like William Collins. I'm sorry, Nathan said genuinely. I kept going alone. When Sophie was born 2 years later, well, let's just say I don't learn easily. The same man, Emily nodded. He came back begging for forgiveness, saying he had divorced, that he wanted to be in Lily's life. He was convincing. Her face hardened. Until his wife, the same one he never divorced, called me when I was 6 months pregnant. Nathan felt a growing anger toward this man he didn't even know. Do the girls have any contact with him? None. He moved out of state soon after, blocked my number. The last I heard from him was a lawyer offering an agreement to relinquish parental rights in exchange for me never requesting child support. She shrugged. I signed. I didn't want anything from him anyway. The conversation left Nathan pensive. Emily had every reason to be distrustful, first abandoned by her father, then by her children's father. Men who promised and failed. I'm not like them, he said finally. Everyone says they're not like the others, Emily replied, but her tone was more weary than cynical. Then I'll have to prove it, Nathan declared. Day by day, when Nathan left the apartment that night, he felt he finally understood Emily's resistance better. He was also more determined than ever to show her he could be trusted, that he wouldn't vanish like the other men in her life. On his drive home, his phone rang repeatedly. His lawyer, trying to reach him with urgent news about the legal implications of his involvement with Emily and the girls. But for the first time in his professional life, Nathan turned off his cell phone, determined not to let anything interfere with what truly mattered. Tomorrow he would deal with lawyers and their concerns. Tonight, he just wanted to remember the look on the girls' faces when he promised he would come back over the weekend to help assemble the small bookshelf he had brought, and the rare, precious moment when Emily smiled at him without reservations as he said goodbye. Small steps, small gestures of trust. It was only the beginning, but for Nathan, it meant everything. It was a perfect Saturday morning. Blue sky, pleasant temperature, a light spring breeze. Nathan was waiting in the parking lot of Emily's building, tapping his fingers on the steering wheel of the SUV he had rented especially for the day. He had sent a message 2 days earlier, inviting Emily and the girls to spend the day together. To his surprise, after 24 hours of silence, she replied with a simple, "Okay." When Emily appeared with the girls, Nathan couldn't help but notice how different the children looked from the first time he saw them at the cemetery. Their clothes, though simple, were clean and well cared for. Lily had her hair in a neat ponytail, and Sophie wore a yellow polka dot dress that made her look like a little ray of sunshine. "Uncle Nathan!" Sophie yelled, running toward him. Over the past few months, she had become even more affectionate. Lily followed behind with more reserved steps, but there was a smile on her face. Emily came last, visibly hesitant. "So, where are we going?" "It's a surprise," Nathan replied, opening the car door, "but I promise you'll like it." During the drive out of the city, Sophie kept up a lively conversation about her new school and the friends she was making. Lily occasionally chimed in, but spent most of the trip quietly observing the landscape passing by outside. Emily remained silent, casting the occasional glance at Nathan. After almost an hour of travel, Nathan turned onto a private road leading to a secluded property. Large iron gates opened automatically as they approached. "What is this place?" Emily finally asked, breaking her silence. "An animal rescue retreat," Nathan said, parking near a renovated farmhouse. "I thought the girls might enjoy seeing the animals, and they have a picnic set up for us." Sophie's eyes went wide. "Are there horses?" "And ponies, goats, some sheep, and even a couple of alpacas," Nathan replied with a smile. "And the best part, we can feed most of them." Lily's face lit up too, though she tried to hide her excitement. "I've never seen an alpaca up close." Emily seemed surprised at the choice of outing. "How did you find out about this place?" "A friend mentioned it once. He brings his kids here every month to volunteer." Nathan shrugged. "It's nothing fancy, but I thought it would be fun." Emily studied his face for a moment. "I thought you'd take us somewhere fancy, or to an expensive amusement park." "I can do that next time if you prefer," he said as they pulled out their bags. "But I thought something quieter might be better for us to get to know each other." A middle-aged woman wearing rubber boots and a straw hat came out to greet them. "Mr. Collins, welcome. I'm Martha, the head caretaker, and these must be the girls you told me about. Ready to meet our four-legged friends?" The next few hours passed like a dream. Sophie squealed with delight at every new animal, while Lily proved surprisingly adept with them, especially a stubborn pony that, according to Martha, rarely let anyone near. Nathan watched Emily gradually relax, first just watching her daughters, then joining in the fun. When she laughed out loud, seeing Sophie try to imitate an alpaca's sound, Nathan felt something warm in his chest. It was the first time he'd really seen her happy. During the picnic, seated on a large checkered blanket under a leafy tree with a view of the horse pasture, conversation flowed more naturally than ever. "How did you know Lily would love the animals?" Emily asked as the girls explored a nearby vegetable garden with Martha. Nathan bit into an apple. "She has a lot of books about animals. I noticed the last time I was at your apartment." Emily looked surprised. "You paid attention?" Of course, why wouldn't I?" Emily was silent for a moment, fiddling with her sandwich without eating. Not even their father noticed what they liked. It was the first time she mentioned the girl's father. Nathan felt her tension, so he decided not to press it. "They're lucky to have you," he said simply. Emily looked at her daughters in the distance. "I always wanted to give them what I never had. Stability, presence. My mom did her best, but she worked so much." "What was your mother like?" Nathan asked quietly. Emily smiled, a sad and nostalgic smile. "Strong, stubborn. She never let herself cry in front of me, but sometimes I heard her at night when she thought I was asleep." "Because of my father?" Emily nodded slowly. "She loved him, you know. She really did. It wasn't just some starstruck employee in love with a powerful boss, like he probably told his lawyers." Nathan lowered his eyes. "He never told me anything about it, or anyone else as far as I know. He just acted like you never existed." A heavy silence settled between them. Emily took a deep breath before continuing. "My mom kept all the news about him, newspaper clippings, magazines. When he died, she'd already been gone 3 years, but I continued the habit. I guess part of me always hoped, I don't know, for some kind of acknowledgement, some sign." "I'm sorry," Nathan said, feeling the weight of a guilt that wasn't his, but which he carried anyway. "It's not your fault," she replied, as if reading his thoughts. "You were also a victim of his silence in a way." When the girls returned, carrying small pots with flower seedlings they'd planted in the garden, the conversation shifted to lighter topics, but something had changed between Nathan and Emily. A small barrier had fallen. Later, they fed the sheep together, and Nathan managed to snap a perfect photo of Emily laughing as a goat tried to eat her blouse. When he showed her the picture, she looked surprised. "I don't even remember the last time I saw myself smiling like that." "You should smile more," Nathan commented. "It suits you." A slight blush colored Emily's cheeks, and she turned her attention back to Sophie, who was calling them over to see a baby rabbit. On the drive back to the city, the girls fell asleep in the back seat, exhausted from so much activity. The silence in the car was comfortable until Emily spoke, her voice almost a whisper, so as not to wake her daughters. "I found something yesterday. I was organizing some boxes of my mother's stuff that were stored at a friend's place, and I found an envelope I'd never seen before." Nathan glanced at her briefly before focusing on the road again. "What kind of envelope?" Emily reached into her purse and took out a slightly crumpled manila envelope. "Letters and some documents my mother kept." She hesitated. "They're about your father and her. Things I didn't even know." Nathan felt his heart speed up. "Do you want me to see them?" Emily stared at the envelope for a long moment. "I do, but not here, not now. Could you come over to the apartment tomorrow night, after the girls are asleep?" "I'll be there," he promised. By the time they arrived at Emily's building, it was already dark. Nathan helped carry the sleeping girls up to the apartment. After tucking them into bed, he found Emily in the small living room. "Thanks for today," she said, for the first time sounding genuinely appreciative. "It was special for them." "And for you?" Nathan ventured. Emily smiled slightly. "Yes, for me too. You're not what I expected, Nathan Collins." "What did you expect?" "Someone more like your father, I guess," Nathan felt. Those words like an unexpected compliment. "See you tomorrow night, then." Emily nodded, clutching the envelope to her chest. "At 9. The girls will be asleep by then." The following night, Nathan arrived right on time. Emily opened the door wearing simple clothes, jeans and a blue t-shirt, with her hair loose, something he rarely saw. "They fell asleep quickly tonight," she said, inviting him in. They were exhausted from telling everyone at school about the animals. The living room was lit only by a corner lamp, creating a more intimate atmosphere. On the coffee table sat the manila envelope, along with 2 cups of tea. "I spent the day wondering if I should show you this," Emily admitted, sitting down on the sofa. "They're very personal things of my mother's. If you'd rather not, you don't have to," Nathan said, sitting at a respectful distance. Emily shook her head. "No, you have the right to know. It's your family, too." She took a deep breath. "Besides, I found something that might explain why your father never looked for us, even after he was widowed." Nathan watched as she opened the envelope carefully, as though handling delicate relics. She pulled out a few sheets of paper, some yellowed with age. "This is a letter my mother wrote to William, but never sent. It's dated 2 weeks before she was let go," Emily explained, handing the letter to Nathan, whose hands trembled slightly as he took it. The handwriting was delicate and clear. Nathan began to read silently. "William, I know what I'm about to say will change everything between us, but I can't keep this secret any longer. I'm pregnant. I know this isn't what we planned. Actually, we never planned anything beyond those stolen moments in your office and that hotel in Chicago. But it happened, and now we need to decide what to do. I love you, William. I've been discreet about our relationship, as you asked. I understand your position, your family, but this baby is part of both of us, and I can't pretend it doesn't exist." The letter went on, alternating between declarations of love and pleas for understanding. Nathan felt a lump in his throat as he imagined the young woman writing those hope-filled words, not knowing what fate awaited her. "She never sent it," Emily explained. "She decided to tell him in person. That's when he offered her money to solve the problem." Nathan handed back the letter, feeling ashamed of his father's actions. "I'm sorry." "There's more," Emily continued, picking up another document. "This is the confidentiality agreement she signed. Look at Clause 3. Nathan examined the legal document, recognizing the standard format used by his father's lawyers. Clause 3 stated that Margaret Carter could not, under any circumstances, contact any member of the Collins family, including William himself, his wife, or his son. If she violated the agreement, she'd have to return all the money plus a penalty, Emily explained. "My mother used that money to start over. to give us a life. She couldn't risk losing it all. Nathan shook his head, incredulous at his father's calculated coldness. But after he was widowed, that's where it gets even more. Surprising, Emily interrupted, picking up another sheet. This is a report from a private detective dated 2015, a year after my mother died. Nathan took the paper, confused. It was a professional report detailing Emily Carter's life. Then 19, a nursing student, working part-time in a diner. It even included a photo of her leaving college. I don't understand, he muttered. Your father hired someone to investigate. Me, Emily said, her voice trembling now. He knew my mother had died. He knew where I was, what I was doing. He knew about me, Nathan. Realization struck Nathan like a punch. He knew, but he never made contact. Emily nodded, tears shining in her eyes. He chose to keep ignoring us even when there was nothing stopping him from meeting his daughter. Nathan set the report on the table, feeling an increasing anger toward the man who had raised him. William Collins had had the chance to correct his mistake, to meet his other daughter, but he had chosen silence again. There's one more thing, Emily added, her voice almost a whisper. She hesitated, then produced another sheet. It's a copy of a DNA test, Nathan frowned. What do you mean? From what I gather, at some point he must have gotten a sample from me. Maybe a strand of hair, I don't know. He confirmed what he already knew. I'm his daughter, 99.9% certainty. Shock left Nathan speechless. His father had secretly confirmed paternity, yet still chose to do nothing. Not to acknowledge Emily, nor to let Nathan know he had a sister. Without thinking, Nathan reached out and took Emily's hand. To his surprise, she didn't pull away. They remained like that for a few moments, united by the silence and the shocking revelations about the man who had brought them together and kept them apart at the same time. He doesn't define us, Nathan finally said. What he did, the choices he made, we don't have to carry that. We can choose differently. Emily gave his hand a slight squeeze. I've been trying to tell myself that for years, but it's hard when all you know is that your father didn't want you. I do, Nathan said before he could think better of it. I want you and the girls in my life. You're my family, Emily. The only real family I've ever had. Emily's eyes met his, bright with unshed tears. But there was something else in them now, a glimmer of hope, perhaps. A small sign of trust that at that moment meant everything. I always wondered what it would be like to have a brother, she admitted, her voice low and vulnerable. Someone who shared the same blood, the same story. So did I, Nathan confessed. Growing up an only child, it's lonely. Emily gently released his hand and stood, going to a small shelf. She returned with a worn photo album. I want to show you something, she said, sitting closer to him this time. She opened the album to the first page, revealing a photo of a young, beautiful woman with the same hair color as Emily and similarly shaped eyes. This is my mother, Margaret, in her 20s. Nathan examined the picture, noting the joy on the woman's face, a joy that existed before William Collins entered her life and changed everything. Page after page, Emily showed him fragments of her childhood, simple birthdays, school graduations, small park outings. In every photo, it was just Emily and her mother, occasionally a friend, never a father, never an extended family. She did the best she could, Emily said, touching a photo where Margaret was hugging her in front of a small Christmas tree. She worked 2 jobs sometimes just to give me a decent life. She seems incredible, Nathan commented, feeling genuine admiration for the woman his father had rejected. She was, Emily confirmed. You know, when I was little, I used to make up stories about my father. I'd say he was an astronaut on a secret mission or a government agent who couldn't reveal his identity. She laughed sadly. It was easier than accepting the truth. And what was the truth your mother told you? Emily closed the album. That my father had another family he loved more, that he made a choice, and it wasn't us. She sighed. She never spoke badly of him, you know? She said he had his reasons, that it was complicated. It was only when I got older that I realized how much she protected him, even after everything. And you? Did you ever want to look for him? Many times, Emily admitted. Especially as a teenager. I even went to the building where he worked once, stood on the opposite sidewalk, watching. I saw him leave, get into a limousine. He seemed so unreachable. Nathan tried to imagine the scene. A teenage girl watching from afar the father who never acknowledged her, while William Collins continued his life without ever looking back, without realizing his own daughter was right there, so close. You know what's stranger? Emily continued. After I had the girls, part of me wanted them to meet their grandfather, not for the money, but because, well, because family should matter. I even wrote a letter when Lily was born, but I never had the courage to send it. He missed out on a lot, Nathan said softly. He missed knowing you, watching you grow up, meeting his granddaughters. That's something money can't buy. Emily nodded, silent tears now rolling down her cheeks. Nathan hesitated only a moment before moving closer and gently hugging her. She stiffened at first, but soon relaxed in his arms, allowing herself, perhaps for the first time, to cry over the rejection she had carried all her life. It's all right, he murmured, holding her as silent sobs shook her body. We're not alone anymore. When Nathan left the apartment that night, something fundamental had shifted between them. The revealed documents and the shared stories had built a bridge across the chasm William Collins had left. Emily and Nathan were no longer strangers bound. By a genetic accident, they were at last beginning to become a family. And as he drove home, Nathan realized that for the first time in a long while, he no longer felt alone in the world. The little girls he had met at the cemetery and the sister he never knew he had were slowly filling the emptiness William Collins had left in his life. It was only a beginning, a first genuine gesture of trust, but for Nathan, it meant everything. Nathan stared at the city through his office window. The view of Manhattan was stunning, gleaming skyscrapers, the river in the distance, millions of lives moving in sync. It was an empire of concrete and glass, not unlike the empire William Collins had built and left to him. The phone rang for the fourth time. It was Davidson again, insisting on discussing the board's serious concerns about his involvement with Emily and the girls. Nathan let it ring until it went to voicemail. In recent weeks, something had changed in him. The night Emily showed him her mother's documents, the proof that William Collins knew about his daughter, had done a DNA test, and still chose to deny her, had awakened something in Nathan. Anger, yes, but also resolve. He would not be like his father. He would not make the same mistakes. He sat in his leather chair, turning to face the photo on his desk. It was an image he had taken at the animal rescue retreat. Sophie laughing as she petted a rabbit, Lily focused on brushing a pony, and Emily watching her daughters with a gentle smile. He'd had it framed the week before, replacing the formal picture of his father that had always occupied that spot. The contrast could not be more striking. William Collins had always looked at the world through the lens of profit and expansion. Family was a social obligation, a name to be maintained and protected. Until a few months ago, that had seemed normal to Nathan. It was all he knew. Now, looking at the smiling faces in the photograph, he realized there was something more. Something his father had never understood, or understood and rejected. The simplicity of belonging to someone, of having people who cared about you for who you were, not for what you owned or represented. His personal phone buzzed with a text from Emily. Lily got the lead role in the school play. She's trying not to show it, but she's super excited. Performance in 3 weeks. Nathan smiled. 3 weeks was enough time to rearrange his schedule, even if it meant postponing the meeting with the Japanese investors. A few months ago, that idea would have been unthinkable. Now it seemed like the only possible choice. His response was immediate. Wouldn't miss it for anything. She'll do great. When his office door opened without warning, Nathan already knew who it was. Davidson rarely bothered to knock when he was worried, and lately, he always seemed worried. Nathan, we can't postpone this conversation any longer, the lawyer said, placing a thick folder on the desk. The board is demanding answers. Rumors about your newly discovered family are spreading. And? Nathan raised an eyebrow, his voice calm. And? Davidson looked genuinely perplexed. You're jeopardizing everything your father built. Collins Enterprises has always been about stability, predictability. These recent developments are making shareholders question your commitment. Nathan observed the man before him, grey-haired, impeccably dressed, loyal to William Collins's legacy until the end. Davidson probably knew about Emily from the start. Maybe he had even advised Nathan's father to bury that secret. My commitment, Nathan repeated each word slowly, is exactly where it needs to be. Right now, we have to focus on what's best for the company, Davidson insisted. The agreement I proposed would settle everything quietly. A generous sum to Emily Carter and her daughters, in exchange for permanent confidentiality. Nathan stood feeling a strange calm despite the tension of the moment. Robert, how long did you work with my father? 30 years? The lawyer seemed confused by the sudden change of subject. 32. Then you must have known him well. Tell me, was he happy? The question clearly caught Davidson off guard. Happy? William was unsuccessful, respected. He built an empire. That's not what I asked. Davidson adjusted his tie, uncomfortable. His happiness came from achievements, Nathan. He wasn't a sentimental man. He knew how to separate business from personal distractions. Nathan nodded slowly. And that includes discarding a daughter as if she were an inconvenient accounting error. That situation was complicated. No, it wasn't, Nathan replied firmly. It was pretty straightforward, actually. My father had a daughter. He rejected her because she didn't fit into his plans. He paid her to disappear. And then, even knowing the truth, he chose to keep it hidden. Simple as that. Davidson remained silent, unable to argue against the harsh reality. Have you ever wondered, Nathan went on, if that explains why my father died alone, why I could barely spend an hour in the same room with him without feeling suffocated, why his only real connection was with this company? He walked back to the window, looking out at the city for a moment before turning to face Davidson again. I'm not going to make the same deal with Emily. I'm not paying to keep my own. Sister and niece is silent like some dirty secret that needs hiding. Nathan, be reasonable. We're talking about your father's legacy. Exactly, Nathan interrupted. His legacy, not mine. And I'm beginning to realize I may not want to carry it the same way he did. The lawyer paled. What does that mean? Nathan picked up the photo from the desk, looking at the smiling faces again before replying. It means I'll be at the board meeting tomorrow, and I'm going to tell them the truth. The whole truth. That William Collins had another daughter. That I have a sister and 2 nieces, and that I intend to acknowledge them publicly as part of the Collins family. Davidson looked horrified. You can't be serious. The shareholders will panic. The press will turn this into a circus. Probably, Nathan agreed with a calm that surprised even himself. But for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm doing the right thing, not just the expected thing. And if the board votes against you, if they threaten your position, the question hung in the air between them. Nathan knew it was a real possibility. The men and women on the Collins Enterprises board were his father's generation, conservative, concerned about appearances, averse to personal risks. Then maybe it's time to reconsider what really matters, he finally answered. This building, this company, or the people who by some miracle came into my life and showed me there's something more? Davidson shook his head, seeing the determination in Nathan's face. They'll all be there tomorrow, prepared to question every decision you've made these past months. I'll be ready, Nathan replied. After the lawyer left, Nathan looked again at the photo in his hand. Fear was still there, of course. Fear of failing as a brother and an uncle. Fear of losing what his father had built. Fear of not being strong enough to uphold this new vision of family he was trying to create. But for the first time, fear didn't feel paralyzing. Because now there was something bigger at stake. He picked up his phone and typed a message to Emily. Can I come? Over tonight? I need to talk to you about something important. Her reply was quick. Sure. The girls are asking when you're coming. Sophie made cookies in her cooking class and saved some for you. Nathan smiled. Cookies probably crooked and burnt. Made by a 4-year-old. Something so simple, so insignificant to most people. But for him, right then, it felt like the most important thing in the world. He took one last look at the city view before grabbing his coat. The Collins empire would still be there tomorrow, whatever the outcome of the meeting. But tonight, there were cookies waiting for him, a school play to celebrate and a family, his family, to protect. And for the first time, the path ahead seemed perfectly clear. The rain fell softly as Nathan and Emily walked through the park, near her apartment. The girls had stayed with a neighbor, giving the siblings a chance to talk without interruption. In recent months, these moments alone had become precious, an opportunity to fill in the gaps of their separate lives. "My mother wrote to him several times," Emily said suddenly, as they took shelter under a tree. "Not just to William, but to your mother too." Nathan frowned. "To my mother? You never mentioned that before." Emily shrugged, looking at the puddles forming on the path. "I didn't think it would matter. After all, no one replied." "How do you know that?" "I found the drafts. She kept copies of everything." Emily stuck her hands in her jacket pockets. "They were desperate letters, Nathan, telling them about the pregnancy, asking only for some acknowledgement, not necessarily money. She even sent a newborn photo of me." Nathan felt a tightening in his chest. The idea that his mother, Victoria Collins, knew about Emily was something he had never considered. He'd always seen William as the villain in this story, or so he thought. "How? Many letters?" "At least 12 over 2 years." Emily turned to look at him. "I always assumed your father just threw them away unread. But now, I wonder if your mother intercepted them." The suggestion hit Nathan like a punch. Victoria Collins, the always proper and cold matriarch, who had left the family when he was 10. She had always blamed William's infidelities for the separation. She never mentioned a pregnant mistress. "I need to check something," he said, his mind already churning with possibilities. "Do you have copies of those letters?" "Some of them. Want to see them?" Nathan nodded. "And I need to visit my parents' old house." The Collins mansion had remained virtually untouched since William's death. Nathan rarely went there, preferring his apartment in the city. But now, as he walked through its silent halls, he looked for answers that might be hidden among those walls. His mother's office, a room William had never remodeled after she left, was exactly as she had left it. Shelves of books, an elegant desk, and that mahogany chest that was always locked in the corner. Nathan remembered asking about it as a child, only to receive evasive answers. It took almost an hour of rummaging through drawers to find a small golden key hidden in a secret compartment in the desk. When he finally opened the chest, his heart raced. Letters, dozens of them organized by date, some still in their original envelopes, others carefully unfolded. The handwriting was unmistakable, the same as the copies Emily had shown him. Letters from Margaret Carter to Victoria Collins, begging for compassion from one woman to another. Nathan sat on the floor, reading letter after letter, each word intensifying his anger. His mother had known, she had always known. She had not only ignored the desperate pleas of a pregnant woman, but had actively concealed Emily's existence. In one of the letters, Margaret had written, "I'm not asking your husband to publicly acknowledge our daughter. I only want her to meet her father and maybe one day her half-brother. Every child deserves to know where they come from." Attached to this letter was a baby photo, Emily, only a few months old. On the back, the date and a simple message, "Emily Carter Collins, your daughter." With trembling hands, Nathan picked up his phone. It was time for a visit he had postponed for far too long. Victoria Collins now lived in an elegant Hamptons estate, far from the eyes of New York society. After the divorce from William, she had received a considerable fortune and chosen a discreet yet luxurious life. She rarely saw her son, limiting contact to the occasional phone call on important dates. When Nathan arrived unannounced, he found her exactly as he imagined, sitting in the sunroom drinking tea as if nothing in the world could disturb her serenity. At 65, Victoria maintained the austere elegance that had always defined her. Perfectly dyed hair, flawless posture, controlled expression. "Nathan," she said with mild surprise. "What an unexpected visit." He did not respond to the formal kiss she offered. Instead, he set a bundle of letters on the tea table. "What are these?" she asked, though her eyes revealed she already knew. "Letters from Margaret Carter. All addressed to you. All about Emily, the daughter father had with her. My half-sister. Victoria took a sip of her tea, as if needing time to organize her thoughts. I see you've been digging through old things. Are you not going to deny it then? Deny what exactly? Her voice remained calm, almost clinical. That your father got a secretary pregnant. That she tried to use the child to get money. It's an old story, Nathan. The coldness of her response fueled Nathan's anger further. She didn't want money. She just wanted Emily to meet her father, to know who he was. Victoria shifted in her chair, finally meeting his eyes. She wanted much more than that. She wanted legitimacy, recognition, a share of the Collins fortune. So what if she did? Nathan raised his voice. Emily was his daughter. She had just as much right as I do. Don't be naive, Victoria retorted, dropping her serene facade. You think she was the only one? Your father had affairs constantly. If we opened that door, we'd soon have dozens of women claiming they had his children. But Emily was actually his child. You knew that. You had her photos. There's no denying the resemblance. Victoria averted her gaze. I did what was necessary to protect our family. Protect, Nathan almost shouted. You destroyed part of it. You condemned an innocent child to grow up without a father, a woman to raise her daughter alone. I did what any mother would do, Victoria responded, her voice hardening. I protected my son. I protected your future, your inheritance. My inheritance, Nathan repeated bitterly. That's what this is about? Money? Don't oversimplify, she shot back. It was about your place in the company, in society. William was weak. If he acknowledged an illegitimate child, he'd soon divide everything among multiple offspring. I wouldn't let your future be jeopardized. Nathan shook his head, incredulous. So while you fought with father over his infidelities, you simultaneously hid the consequences of one of them. What kind of hypocrisy is that? Victoria stood up, clearly shaken. You don't understand how it was. Our marriage was already falling apart. If that woman and her child officially entered our lives, I would lose everything. William might have left me for her. So it wasn't about protecting me, Nathan concluded, disappointment evident in his voice. It was about you. I did what I thought was best at the time, Victoria insisted, her voice trembling slightly now. And afterward? After you and father split? After he died? Why did you never tell me about Emily? Victoria hesitated, and for the first time Nathan saw something in her eyes he'd never seen before. Guilt. It was too late, she said quietly. What good would it do? Reopen old wounds? You not only hid Emily from me, but condemned her to a difficult life for your own selfish reasons, Nathan accused. Do you know how she grew up? How many hours her mother had to work to provide for her, while you lived here in this palace, pretending to be the wronged wife? Victoria sank back into her chair, suddenly looking smaller, more fragile. I was afraid, she confessed in a low voice. Afraid of losing everything if William acknowledged the other daughter. Afraid you'd hate me if you found out. Then, I just didn't know how to tell you. Nathan looked at the woman before him, elegant, controlled, calculating. His mother, who always seemed so sure, so certain of her decisions. Now he saw only a frightened person who had made terrible choices to protect her own comfort. Emily has 2 daughters, he finally said. Your granddaughters, Lily and Sophie. Wonderful children you'll never meet. Victoria raised her eyes, surprised. Nathan, don't be drastic. We can work this out like adults. Maybe I can meet them now, offer some compensation. Compensation? Nathan laughed without humor. You think you can just buy your way back? Pay to clear your conscience? I'm trying to do the right thing now, Victoria argued. It's too late, Nathan replied, standing up. Emily grew up without a father because of your choices. The girls grew up without grandparents, and I spent my whole life believing I was an only child, dealing with a loneliness you helped create. Victoria reached out a pleading hand. Nathan, please, I'm your mother. He regarded her for a long moment, feeling a mix of pity and disappointment. A mother who hid my sister from me for 30 years, who threw away letters begging for help, who put money and status above. An innocent child. Nathan gathered the letters from the table. I have to go. Emily and the girls are waiting for me. My family is waiting for me. "And what about me?" Victoria asked, her composure finally breaking. "Are you just going to cut me out of your life?" Nathan paused at the door, casting one last look at the woman who had raised him. "I don't know, Mother. I really don't know if I can forgive this. I'm going to need time." As he drove back to the city, he felt a heaviness in his chest. Not just anger, but a deep sadness. He had lost the mother he thought he had. But maybe at last he'd found the truth. And the truth, however painful it was the first step toward building something new, something honest, something better than what his parents had created. Rain pounded against the windows of Nathan's apartment as he stared at the city through the fogged glass. 3 days had passed since his confrontation with his mother, and her words still echoed in his mind. Sitting in semi-darkness, lit only by the dim glow of a lamp, he twirled a glass of whiskey in his hand without actually drinking. His phone vibrated for the 10th time that day. Victoria again. All previous calls had gone to voicemail, as would this one. Next to the phone, scattered on the coffee table, were the letters, silent witnesses to 30 years of carefully constructed lies. The doorbell rang, pulling him from his dark thoughts. Opening it, he found Emily holding a dripping umbrella. "You're not answering your phone," she said simply. "The girls are worried. I am too." Nathan stepped aside, letting her in. "I'm sorry. I needed to think." Emily hung her wet coat and looked around the partially dark apartment, used glasses, letters on the table. "Doesn't look like thinking is helping much," she remarked, turning on more lights. "How did you know where I live?" "Lily asked your driver the last time he picked us up," Emily said with a small smile. "She's always been observant." Nathan shook his head, impressed by his niece's cleverness. "Have a seat. Do you want something to drink?" "Tea would be nice." "You look like you need one too instead of that." She pointed to the barely touched whiskey. In the kitchen, while the water boiled, Nathan felt the weight of the last few days lift slightly. There was something reassuring about Emily's presence, perhaps because she understood better than anyone the complexity of it all. "Your mother called me," Emily said when he returned with 2 cups of tea. Nathan froze. "What? How'd she get your number?" "Apparently she has her ways." Emily took a sip of her tea. "She asked to meet, said she wants to know her granddaughters." "What did you say?" "That I'd think about it." Emily looked him in the eye. "What should I have said?" Nathan sat, feeling exhaustion weigh on him. "I don't know. Part of me wants to keep you and the girls as far from her as possible. And the other part? The other part remembers that despite everything, she's my mother." He sighed. "And yours too, in a way. The only grandmother Lily and Sophie have." Emily looked at the letters on the table. "You read them all? Everyone? Your mother was incredible. The way she wrote, always dignified, never begging for money, just for recognition." Nathan shook his head. "And my mother kept everything, without ever replying." "Why do you think she kept the letters instead of destroying them?" Emily asked. The question took Nathan by surprise. He hadn't considered that. "I don't know," he admitted. "Maybe guilt? Or maybe she was never fully at peace with her decision," Emily suggested. "People are rarely all good or all bad, Nathan, even when they do terrible things." Nathan looked at his sister with a new understanding. Despite everything Victoria had done, Emily wasn't judging her as harshly as he was. "How can you be so balanced about this? She denied your existence. She threw away any chance for you to meet your father." Emily thought for a moment. "I spent years being angry. At your father, your mother, the system that let a wealthy man just discard his responsibilities. But anger, it just consumed me from within. It changed nothing." She gently touched one of the letters. "When I had the girls, I realized I needed to decide who I wanted to be, what example I wanted to set, resentment or forgiveness, bitterness or hope." She met Nathan's eyes. "I chose the harder path, but the only one that allowed me to move on." "You're suggesting I should forgive my mother?" "I'm suggesting you need to process your feelings before making any final decision," Emily replied. "Forgiveness doesn't mean approving of what was done. It means freeing yourself from carrying that anger." Nathan remained silent, absorbing her words. After a few moments, he asked, "How are the girls?" "Missing their favorite uncle," Emily answered, with a gentle smile. Sophie asks every day when you're coming back for dinner. A warmth spread through Nathan's chest at her words. In just a few months, these little children had become such an essential part of his life that the thought of disappointing them felt unbearable. You know what you need? Emily stood decisively. Time away from this apartment. Away from business, away from all this pressure. I have responsibilities, Emily. Yes, and one of them is taking care of yourself. She crossed her arms. Take a few weeks off. Have a real vacation for the first time in your life. Spend time with us. Nathan hesitated. The company's directors are pressuring for a final resolution on you all. And what do you want to do about us? I want to do the right thing, he answered promptly. Emily smiled. Then start by doing the right thing for yourself. Breathe, think, then decide. After Emily left, Nathan pondered her words. Maybe she was right. Maybe what he needed wasn't more meetings or more analysis, but simply time to feel, to understand what truly mattered. He picked up the phone and, for the first time in years, called his assistant with an unprecedented request. Mark, I need you to rearrange my schedule for the next 3 weeks. I'm taking a vacation. The small beach house in the Hamptons had been closed up for years. It had been in the Collins family for generations, but William rarely used it, preferring luxurious hotels for his few vacations. Nathan had fond memories of the place. It was one of the few where his family seemed almost normal before his parents' marriage fell apart. The idea of taking Emily and the girls there came naturally. It wasn't ostentatious like the family's other properties, just a simple house overlooking the ocean with direct beach access, perfect for children, away from the chaos of the city and the obligations waiting for them. Is this really yours? Sophie asked, her eyes wide as she ran from room to room. Actually, it's ours, Nathan replied, watching his niece's excitement. It belongs to the Collins family, and your Collins too. Emily, unloading in the kitchen, paused when she heard those words. It was the first time Nathan had included them so directly in the family legacy. The following days passed in a peaceful bubble of simplicity. Mornings on the beach, building sandcastles with the girls. Afternoons exploring the small coastal town or reading under the gentle autumn sun. Evenings playing board games or watching movies, all piled together, on the big living room sofa. For Nathan, it felt like discovering an entirely new life. No meetings, no constant phone calls, no pressure about decisions affecting thousands of jobs. Just him, his sister, and his nieces, living moments he never imagined could be so fulfilling. One such moment occurred on the beach, when Lily, normally reserved, sat next to him as they watched Sophie chase seagulls. Uncle Nathan, she began seriously, are you going to stay with us forever? The innocent question struck right to the core of his reflections. Why do you ask that, Lily? She drew circles in the sand with her finger. Because important people always leave. Nathan felt a pang in his heart. Who left, Lily? Dad did. The grandpa we never met. Mom's grandma. Adults always promise to stay, but then they disappear. In that moment, Nathan truly understood the impact of abandonment across generations. William had abandoned Emily. The girl's father had abandoned them, and now Lily feared the same pattern would repeat. Lily, I can't promise to be physically present every single day, he answered carefully, but I can promise that I'll always be your uncle. I'll always be part of your life. I'll always be a phone call away if you need me. That's a promise I won't break. The girl studied him for a long moment, with that intensity so reminiscent of Emily. Do you really promise? With all my heart, Nathan replied, extending his pinky. Lily hooked her pinky around his, sealing the pact with the seriousness. Only a 6-year-old could grant a promise. That night, after the girls were asleep, Nathan and Emily sat on the porch, watching the waves in the moonlight. Lily asked if I'd stay forever, he commented. Emily sighed. She's afraid to get attached. After their father left, she became more cautious with her feelings. I promised I'd always be in her life, Nathan said. It's a promise I intend to keep. Emily smiled. I know you will. You're not like them, Nathan. You're not like our father or the girl's father. How can you be so sure? You've only known me a few months. Because I've seen them. Men like our father, who see people as disposable pawns in their power games. She looked him in the eye. You could have done the same. You could have offered us money in exchange for silence. You could have simply disappeared from our life. But you're here, building sandcastles with my daughters and making promises you plan to keep. Nathan felt a weight lift from his shoulders. When I found the girls at the cemetery, I thought it was just guilt over something my father did. But now, he searched for the right words. Now I realize you're the family I've always wanted. A real connection, not based on obligations or appearances, even with all the problems we bring, especially with them, Nathan replied, smiling. Real people have real problems. That's what makes them, well, real. When they returned to the city after 2 weeks, Nathan was different, calmer, more centered, and absolutely sure about his next steps. The Collins Enterprises conference room was full when Nathan walked in. Directors, lawyers, and his mother, all waiting to discuss the situation, as they had carefully labeled it. Victoria Collins looked older since their last encounter. Her face, normally impassive, showed signs of sleepless nights and constant worry. When her eyes met Nathan's, he saw something rare in them, uncertainty. Davidson, ever formal, began the meeting with a detailed account of the family situation and its potential implications for the company. Documents were handed out, numbers presented, hypothetical scenarios laid out. Nathan listened patiently. When it was finally his turn to speak, he rose calmly. I appreciate the thorough analysis, Robert, but let's address the central point. I discovered I have a sister, Emily Carter, my father's daughter with Margaret Carter. Emily has 2. Our daughters, my nieces, Lily and Sophie. He looked directly at each person in the room. These aren't hypotheses or possibilities. They're facts. Davidson cleared his throat uncomfortably. Nathan, no one is questioning the biological relationship. The question is how to handle this situation in a way that protects the company and its legacy. The situation, as you call it, was created by my father, who chose to deny his own daughter, Nathan said, his voice resolute, and was perpetuated for 30 years by my mother, who hid the truth even from me. Victoria paled visibly. Nathan, we've already talked about this. I did what I thought was best at the time. Yes, we did talk, and I've spent the last few weeks thinking it over. Nathan opened a folder in front of him. I asked the company's lawyers to prepare these documents. They're simple and straightforward. He slid a copy toward each person at the table. I'm transferring 20% of my shares in Collins Enterprises to Emily Carter. Additionally, I'm setting up a trust fund for Lily and Sophie, guaranteeing their educational and financial future. A murmur spread through the room. Davidson was the first to react. Nathan, this is impulsive. Those shares represent a considerable fortune and a significant voting power in the company. I'm aware, Nathan responded. I'm also aware my sister was deprived of her birthright for 3 decades. This is just the first step toward correcting that wrong. Victoria stood, her usual composure finally breaking. I can't do this. Think of the company, your father's legacy. I'm thinking of his legacy, Nathan replied calmly, and deciding which part of it I want to preserve and which part needs to be corrected. He turned to his mother. For years, you and father built an empire based on secrets and personal sacrifices. You made a lot of money but lost much more of your humanity. I won't follow the same path. The directors began voicing their objections, talking about the impact on share prices, public perception, potential instability for the business. Nathan listened patiently, then spoke again. My decision is made. The documents are prepared and will be filed today. You can work with me to make this transition easier, or I can find a new management team that will. The firmness in his voice silenced even the most vocal opponents. One by one, the directors and lawyers began to leave the room until only Nathan and Victoria remained. Why are you doing this? She asked, her voice more vulnerable than he had ever heard. Is it to punish me? Nathan shook his head. It's not about punishment, Mother. It's about doing what's right, about creating a different kind of family. And me? Victoria looked suddenly frail. Do I still have a place in this new family you're creating? Nathan felt a conflict within. Part of him wanted to cut all ties with the woman who had lied to him his entire life, but he remembered Emily's words about forgiveness, about choosing the harder path. That's up to you, he finally answered. If you're willing to get to know Emily and the girls genuinely, without judgment or manipulation, maybe there's a way forward. Victoria nodded slowly, unshed tears in her eyes. When can I meet them? When they're ready, Nathan replied, and that might take time. Trust isn't rebuilt overnight. A week later, Nathan parked his car in front of an elegant house on a quiet street in Brooklyn. It wasn't a mansion, but a spacious, comfortable home with a small front yard and a backyard. Perfect for a family with 2 young children. Emily waited on the sidewalk, disbelief written on her face as she looked at the house. "You're joking, right?" she asked when he approached. Nathan handed her a folder. "Deed, keys, all the necessary documents. The house is in your name." Emily shook her head, visibly moved. "Nathan, it's too much. First the company shares, now this." "It's not too much," he interrupted gently. "It's what should have been yours from the start. A fair share of the Collins legacy." "I don't know what to say." "Say, you'll accept. That you'll leave that cramped apartment and give the girls a yard to play in, their own rooms, a safe neighborhood." Emily looked again at the house, then at her brother. "Why? Why are you doing all this?" Nathan smiled. "Because we're family. Because Lily and Sophie deserve stability. And because you deserve a new beginning." At that moment, the girls ran out of the car. Sophie immediately clung to Nathan's legs, while Lily gazed at the house with wide eyes. "Are we going to live here, Uncle Nathan?" Sophie asked, jumping with excitement. "Yes, Princess, this is your home now." Lily approached cautiously. "Forever, forever," he confirmed, remembering the promise he'd made on the beach. Emily finally smiled, giving in to the emotion of the moment. "Want to show us around, former owner?" As they walked up the path, Nathan felt a calm certainty settle in his heart. Collins Enterprises would go on, adapting to the changes he had put in motion. His mother would have time to reflect on her choices and perhaps someday build bridges with the family she had denied. As for him, he finally understood where his true legacy lay. Not in the buildings bearing the Collins name, not in bank accounts or corporate shares, but in the bonds he was forming with these 3 people who had come into his life so unexpectedly. In Lily, with her precocious wisdom and observant eyes. In Sophie, with her contagious joy and spontaneous hugs. And in Emily, the sister he never knew he needed, whose strength and capacity for forgiveness inspired him to be a better person. As he watched the girls dart from room to room, exclaiming over their new bedrooms and the swing in the backyard, Nathan realized he had found something far more valuable than any fortune, a place where he truly belonged. A family built not out of obligation or blood alone, but by choice, by effort, by genuine love. It was a new beginning for all of them. A future free from the secrets and lies of the past. A path rooted in the trust they had carefully nurtured. Conversation by conversation, moment by moment, Emily approached him as they watched the girls explore the backyard. "Thank you," she said simply, her voice full of emotion. "Not just for this," she gestured to the house, "but for not giving up on us when it would have been so easy to do so." Nathan smiled, feeling a peace he had never known before. "I should be the one thanking you, for showing me that family is so much more than a name or an inheritance. Here's where you find your home." As the sun began to set, painting the sky in oranges and pinks, Nathan knew he had finally found his true inheritance, not in the company vaults or in his father's business dealings, but in the smiles of his nieces and the acceptance of his sister. An inheritance no amount of money could buy, and one no secret from the past could ever destroy.